guys, it is April from Getting Hugo with It. Today I wanted to talk to you about the long books that I have been absolutely loving this year. It's funny because this year, 2018, I decided not to read a lot of long books and to read shorter books, and that was kind of my goal. However, I did find myself reaching for books that were long, and my definition of long is like over 400 pages. So I've got quite a few books here that I want to share with you. One of which I am reading at this very moment in time and absolutely loving, and then the other ones I've already read and I've loved them and I wanted to share them. So let's get into it. So the first book I am currently reading, and so I should tell you that I'm not finished it. I think I'm about 200 pages in, but The Trouble with Goats and Sheep. It is so good. This is by Joanna Cannon. I think this was her debut novel, which is shocking to me because it's some of the best writing I've ever read. It is beautiful, beautiful writing. And this is about two little girls who live on a kind of crescent, very small neighborhood, and they're 10 years old, and one day one of their neighbors named Mrs. Crazy goes missing, and they have decided that they are going to go and find her. And so it really is part growing up story, which is so gorgeously written, and then it is part mystery, and I am like flipping the pages like crazy. I'm loving this. I'm currently reading this with Amy Poole, and I think we're both enjoying it. So yes, that's the first one. I know I haven't finished it, but I had to include it in here because I'm really loving it that much. Next, I wanted to talk to you about The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was my first Taylor Jenkins Reid, and my gosh, this was addictive. This was such an addictive book. I think I read this in the span of maybe a week, and I just couldn't put it down. And this is about a Hollywood icon named Evelyn Hugo. She is an elderly woman. I think she's in her 80s at this point. And she's decided that she wants to tell one reporter the story of her life. And she picks the reporter. The reporter had no idea that Evelyn Hugo even knew that she existed. So they sit down together, and Evelyn starts going through her life and about, her seven husbands. This was, again, an addictive ride. I will say that Evelyn Hugo is not always the most likable character. There are actually quite a few characters in here that aren't always likable, and yet you find yourself rooting for them. This is about a woman in Hollywood in the 30s? No, in the 50s. So, women didn't have a lot of rights in the 50s, and actresses could easily be taken advantage of. So you are definitely rooting for Evelyn Hugo. But don't worry about her too much because she definitely, knows how to navigate Hollywood. Let me just say that. So good. I also wanted to mention The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. Oh my goodness, this book is so beautiful. This is about a man who lives in Ireland. We meet him in the 40s when he is born, and we follow him throughout his entire life. Now, Cyril Avery is a gay man in Ireland at that time, which was not easy. Being gay at this time was illegal, and it's about his journey personally in Ireland, and then also romantically in Ireland and beyond. And I just adored this book. I am so freaking surprised it hasn't won a bunch of awards. This book is sometimes difficult to read because, again, it's filled with unlikable characters. You love Cyril, but he is surrounded by people who should be a lot nicer to him, and you you just want to go and strangle a bunch of people because they're not very nice people to Cyril. But he does meet lovely, lovely characters as well. So if you haven't read The Heart's Invisible Furies, please go and do that. It's one of the best books I've read this year. Next, I've got a thriller for you, and that is The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. This I found to be a really fun thriller. I know that it's got mixed reviews, and that's totally fine. Everyone can have their own opinions, but I really enjoyed it. This is about a woman who is, agoraphobic. She can't leave her home, and so she spends her days drinking wine, watching old films, and also watching The Neighbors. And one day she sees something out her window that she probably shouldn't have seen. It was a devastating, disturbing thing that she cannot get out of her mind. And so she decides that she's going to get to the bottom of it. I thought this was really good writing for a thriller. A.J. Finn can write. He's great, and I will be reading any thriller that he writes from here on out. And if he decides to read or to write another genre, I will read that too, absolutely. So please go and check that out this summer if you haven't read that yet. It's a fun one for summer, I would say. I also adored Hum If You Don't Know the Words. This, I think, is the best book that I've read this year. Big claims, but I think I'm going to say that. In this book, we're following two vantage points. We follow a young girl in South Africa. She's white. She has lost her parents, and she goes to live with an aunt. We also follow a black woman in South Africa named Beauty. She has lost her daughter, and she's trying to find her daughter. This all takes place during apartheid, and I got chills reading this book, and I have never felt so close to characters. I just wanted only the best for these characters, and just the circumstances that they're both in. You just feel for them. You feel for them. It's gorgeous writing. I believe the author is currently finishing another book. Like, she just wrote it and it's off to the publishers now to be edited. I'm trying to remember her name, Bianca something. I can't remember. That's terrible, but I love her. And I'm going to be reading everything she writes. I'm so excited that she's writing. It's great. Oh, hi, Libby.
I just wanted to see if you had a treat there, Mum. Oh, hello.
Hello.
Okay, you don't have one, so unhand me. Let me go!
I also want to recommend Memoirs of a Geisha. This is about a young girl in Japan. She's lost her family, and she is basically sold to become a geisha, and it is about her journey to become a geisha. And it is kind of magical. Like, the whole story is so magical, and it feels like it's of a completely different time. And I just adored this book. This is also a book about resilience. You know, this young girl that we follow has a lot of hardship, losing her family, being sold to become a geisha, and that process as well. She is also not surrounded by the kindest people at all times. There are certain people that, you know, come through for her who I really adored in this book. And I just, if you haven't read Memoirs of a Geisha yet, I really highly suggest that you do. Okay, finally, I have to recommend Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I finally read Rebecca, and I finally read my first Daphne du Maurier, and I will definitely be reading more because she is fantastic. Rebecca follows a woman who is single. She works as like a ladies' maid, ladies' like help, basically. She works for this elderly woman, and they are on a cruise, I believe, and she meets this man who's very handsome. He's also very wealthy, and his name is Mr. De Winter. And they form a friendship, and he asks her to marry him. And they go back to where he lives, Manderley, which is this enormous estate. And she gets there and she realizes that the servants, everyone always talks about Mr. De Winter's first wife, Rebecca. And she's consistently being compared to Rebecca. And over the course of the book, you kind of unravel who Rebecca was. And this is a page turner. It's a page turner, and yet it also pays really close attention to setting. Manderley is beautiful. Like, I want to go to Manderley. It's so stunning the way that it's written. And it should be this like wonderful experience, and yet it's not always. Oh, it's just so good. So, okay, those are the books that I've read this year that are very, very long. Well, long-ish for me. And I've just loved every second of them. You know when you read those books that they're long and yet you wish that they were longer just so you could be in that world? These books, absolutely. So let me know in the comments below if you've read any long books lately that you've really enjoyed. And I will see you next time. Bye, guys.